Hi, everybody. Okay, so I know that I said if you watch my previous videos that I wouldn't cover anything else about Karen Read because I figured it was a done deal. She was found not guilty of the charges against her, which was she was accused of and acquitted and then totally found not guilty of unaliving her then boyfriend by running over him and leaving him in the cold, right? Okay, so I went through two trials. I covered every piece of information about this, and I was very happy, to say the least, that she was found not guilty in the second trial. The reason I say acquitted was because she was found acquitted, hung jury in the first case. That means that they couldn't really come to a consensus, so there's a hung jury. But the thing I learned, which I did not know until that point, was if you get a hung jury, you don't really want that because they could charge you with the same thing over again, which is what happened. So what you really want is not guilty, which I now know that. Okay, so the only reason I'm talking about this is because I want justice for her. I really do. And I talked about all the ways all the officers, pretty much all the officers and some of the witnesses were, in my words, corrupt in the first two trials because, well, there's layers to it, okay? Um, the officers, most of the officers involved were either family related or somewhat related to um, the victim or more than her. She was the outsider. Um, Imagine like, well, I've talked about it before. Okay, everybody lived in this town except for her. She was the outsider. She was a complete outsider. She didn't know anybody. She was not really connected to anybody, and she had no friends in this group. Whereas everybody else was either high school friends or family relations in this whole thing. So I talked about, I think, in the first trial, about this might be a little bit sketchy because there might be, you know, people know each other, they're friends, so they might do favors for each other. And there might be a let's see, um, where you shouldn't proceed because you know somebody, that kind of thing. Um, I talked about it. I also talked about the mean girl aspect, meaning these people did not like Karen Read, and so if they were gonna throw anybody under the bus, it would have been her, right? Okay, so the funny part here, or the ironic, not funny. None of this is funny. Ironic. The ironic part here is because Karen Read has now filed a civil suit, meaning for money or punitive damages here. Um, we're going to get to read or hear all the text messages all over again about how corrupt the investigation was. And this is not my opinion at this point. Some of this is factual. The text from some of these officers is completely gross. And I mean gross disgusting. Okay? Um yeah. So, and she decided to throw everybody in this lawsuit. There are officers, former officers, and I learned this also right now, well within the week, that if you are a former officer and they want to charge you, they say your name in his personal capacity. meaning him as an individual or her as an individual if it's a female, you know. And then so there are a couple of officers like that, and then there's the McCabe's because this happened. Now, this is my theory. Well, some of this is my theory and some of it is fact. Okay? Here's my theory that something happened in that house to him and John O'Keefe, the victim in all this, John O'Keefe. The secondary victim is Karen Read because they did not give her a fair shake, in my opinion, before the trial, and that in turn made the trial not fair, really. Okay? So, something happened to him in this house, and they covered it up. And as they said in the text message from the officer, we're going to pin it, quote unquote, pin it on the girl. This is from an officer supposed to uphold justice and be completely fair and unbiased. And he says he's going to pin it on the girl. Okay. And then the McCabe's because they did nothing. Although, they could have talked to somebody because the Alberts were like across the street or something, like right there. And one of them is an officer. Brian Albert is an officer, or at least has more ability than they do. And then there was Alberts, the McCabe's, the officers, and somebody else. She talked about a few. There were a lot of people in this lawsuit. So anyway, what it means is we're going to hear all the text messages, like I said. And even if you didn't hear all the ones from the first trial or the second trial, you're going to hear them all. And let me tell you, they're really bad. Really, really bad. Even the lawyers, the other lawyers who covered this, said the only thing I can say is that gross and derogatory and totally uncalled for. So that gives you a little hint about how bad they were. So yeah. And the reason I want to cover this is because I want to see justice. And the reason I didn't do the video until now is because I did some digging. And the civil case isn't supposed to start until December 19th. Okay, now I know I made a video a couple days ago about I'm not going to cover anything in December. This is why I'm going to cover this, because it's going to be a civil hearing, and I really don't think they're going to figure everything out in 6 days. So that'll get me past Christmas. So I'll cover what I can that day, and then I'll kind of go on hiatus as far as trials go until January, So, yeah. Also, I didn't know it was going to happen right now, although it makes sense because I'm pretty sure there's a statute of limitations as far as filing a civil suit. Okay, like say something happens. I think you have, now this is my guessing. Okay, I don't have factual for this, but I think you have about a year, maybe 2 on the outside years to file a civil suit before it's been too long and they won't entertain your motion. So, but I'm gonna look that up. That's the only reason I would think that they would file the civil suit now, because for me it's been a little too close to when the second trial ended. But maybe they had limitations there. So. All right, so there you go. You know a little bit about my schedule. I'm going to cover this part of it because, like I said, I really don't think they're going to come to a decision in a week's time. And plus, they said it was only going to be a status hearing. like to see how much stuff they have and to see where they're at. And then I'm sure they're gonna do a trial date for sometime in the new year after that. So, all right, bye everybody.